Hello, welcome to the Franchise Marketing Show. Welcome back for a new series. I'm joined by Coconut's very own Adam Lovelock. Hello.
Hi, Mark.
How
you
are
doing?
you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you.
Good.
Good start to the year.
Good. Nice. What we're going to talk about today is franchise marketing in 2026. It's a very broad subject. Tell me what's happening in franchise marketing in 2026.
Wow. That's a very big question, isn't it? Where do you start, really? I suppose it feels like in marketing, as in business in general, we're in quite a fluid, rapid moving type thing.
Yeah.
Without that much changing at the moment, if that makes any
much
kind of
implementation.
sense. Yeah, I think obviously with AI, there's going to be so much change over the coming years. Whether all of that's in place now is debatable, but we can chat a bit around that. I suppose, as ever with franchise marketing, there's two strands, isn't there? We've got franchise recruitment and then the kind of core business marketing of the business. So there's probably different trends in both, I'd say.
So in terms of like recruitment marketing, what kind of trends are you seeing?
I think overall it's tough for most brands. I think we're obviously in January, aren't we? Which tends to be the best month of the year for franchise recruitment related activity. And there's definitely been an increase, I think, this January from what we've seen. Like, there's always that kind of spark of interest. The whole Blue Monday thing, I think, does apply to franchising, even if it doesn't in general, because I just think it's that time of year when people are considering their future and what they want to do and different things. But I don't think the jump is quite what we used to see.
I mentioned that.
I think I think two things. I think ever since COVID, the seasonality in franchise recruitment, I think, has changed a little bit. You used to be able to absolutely know the pattern would be January really big, kind of okay through the spring, really quiet over the summer, come back really strong in September, October. I think now you still see that, but the peaks are lower, and it's more of a general kind of, average leads per month being similar. And then I suppose the other side of it is overall search traffic of people looking for franchising as high as it was pre-COVID? I'm not sure it is. I think when you look at the search trends, it's still lower than it was pre-COVID, I think.
Well, you say pre-COVID, because I remember pre-COVID you were saying it was Brexit was the issue.
Yeah, well...
And you said there was no certainty, because like after Brexit, like the UK went through like 3 prime ministers really quickly, and like the trends then weren't like peaking like they were. So it's been nearly like 10 years now since any sort of predictability.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue. I think for overall interest in franchising, I think the uncertainty is not good. If you plot kind of uncertain moments, so like you mentioned Brexit and the pandemic, against overall search traffic in franchising, whenever there's uncertainty, there is a dip in overall traffic. And the reality is there's been consistent uncertainty for years now, hasn't there? Like, even if you look at what's going on in the world today, there's so much uncertainty. And I just think it makes people a little bit more cautious. The job market is still pretty strong in the UK, so you're in a position where there's lots of people who have a lot of certainty in their employment, or they certainly feel they do, and actually going and starting a business in uncertain times is maybe feels a bit risky. So I think that definitely has an impact. I think what we always used to say is that you get to a point where you get certain uncertainty, which then helps to drive it. So people are like, well, actually, I now know we are in a recession, and it's definitely a recession, so now I'm going to have to take a bit of control and do something. I don't feel like we've had certain uncertainty for a long time. Yeah.
And we sort of touched on technology as well. What kind of technology are you seeing that people are actually starting to implement?
In franchise recruitment, I feel like franchise recruitment is... The key is to be a bit anti-technology at the moment.
Because you've got to implement it across like your entire network.
Well, yeah, but definitely
it's
that.
Hard to do that.
I think in franchise recruitment specifically, I think one of the things which, I wouldn't say it's held people back, but I think it is a negative, is that there's been a reliance upon technology to be used in the follow-up of leads of prospective franchisees. And I think ultimately... And I hope this always remains the case with franchise recruitment, or else we're living in a very strange world, that people buy franchises based on the relationship they build with the franchisor or the team of the franchisor. It's a very personal thing, isn't it? We said about the people being risk adverse. the way to overcome that is to build personal relationships with the prospects and people looking at the franchise and building that trust. I think there's been a bit of an over-reliance upon franchise recruitment leads coming in and then using technology and automation to follow up those leads.
Yeah.
And I think the absolute key in franchise recruitment in 2026 is to try and build those personal relationships as quickly as you can. And typically that will be phone calls, Zoom calls, discovery days, whatever they are. I think since COVID, there's been less of that.
Yeah.
The majority of brands used to run discovery days, in-person discovery days. They're now very rare because it's all done on Zoom. So I just think technology's almost come too much into the franchise recruitment process, and I think the brands that do very well are the ones that try and there's nothing wrong with using that as a supplement, but I think it's so important to build those personal relationships as quickly as you can.
Yeah, at the BFA conference in November, it was Piers Linney was like, yeah, you need to automate everything in your recruitment, like, so you just get like an AI just to do everything.
Yeah, and there is a place for it. I'm not saying that you wouldn't use AI to, lead comes in, send email, send text message, try and get someone to book a call, all of those different kind of things. But ultimately, I don't think in franchise recruitment, and as I say, this may change, but we're years away from being able to use an AI voice agent to ring a franchise lead to build the trust for someone to leave their job and invest their life savings in a franchise. To me, we're just miles away from that. Yeah. So I think some brands have maybe gone too far in that direction. AI has a place. There's definitely a place like pre-lead and to support and supplement that process, 100%. But that human element, someone is not going to buy a franchise by only interacting with AI in 2026. Yeah, I would say.
I agree. And I think like it's from that video point of view, I always bring it back to that, but like it's seeing real people and real relationships is building an element of trust. Yeah. Like I think if we did this now, but it was just like an AI conversation, so they took our voices,
it'd be a lot better.
And we just said like, talk about franchise marketing in 2026. Maybe we should do that as an example, just to show like what it could do. But I think it'd be a lot more.
Could I have hair?
Yeah.
Awesome.
A big head of hair. But I think it'd be like more dry and just sort of factual, and just a bit rubbish. Yeah.
It's coming, isn't it? And there's going to be more and more of it. And I'm not against it. I think there's loads of benefits. I just think in franchise recruitment, you mentioned video. I think that's still underutilized massively in franchise recruitment. I think podcast, videos, all these different things that people can use to as a way for prospects to build trust and learn more about a brand is so important. Because the reality is, I think in franchise recruitment, it's always really interesting because a short window of someone becoming a lead and becoming a franchise is probably 3 to 6 months. The reality is most leads will take a year to make a decision on whether they're going to invest in the franchise. And during that year, they are going to consume lots of content. That it's one of the biggest decisions they're ever going to make, possibly the biggest purchasing decision they'll ever make. Yeah. So, you think how much you research buying a new TV now online. If you're buying a franchise, you are going to be Googling a lot. You're going to be using AI a lot to find out everything. You want to find out not just the good stuff about the brand you want to invest in. Up a lot, yeah. You're going to be trying to find all the bad stuff. You're going to be reading reviews. You're going to be looking through absolutely everything. So you want to try and control that as much as possible by putting out loads of content that people can look at. And the reality is that I always say in franchise recruitment, your best prospects, you don't know about them yet, potentially. They've been looking at your brand for a long time. They've been looking at the content online. They'll become a lead when they're ready to become a lead, but they're researching. And I just think things like podcasts and, well, actually, podcasts, a perfect one, is a big thing to do because we all listen to them, and you tend to listen to podcasts at times when you're undistracted. So whether you're driving, you're running, you're in the gym, you're out for a walk, you haven't got the distractions you have in normal life when you're sending through like text messages and emails to people. So if you've got a prospect who's really keen and they're going to listen to a podcast series when they're at the gym, you've got their full attention. Yeah. So I know it's a big thing that you're looking at, like doing podcasts. And I just think every brand should have 12 episodes for their franchise recruitment that they can send to a prospect. And those episodes are, introduction to the franchise, talking to the bank about how you fund the franchise, episodes with franchisees talking about their typical day in the life. All of those different things.
Talking about the rubbish stuff as well, like the bad stuff that's happened, like, and talking to franchisees that have been there a while, talking to franchisees that have just started.
Yeah, what are the challenges?
Get, like, the whole look of it.
Yeah, and we used to have a conversation, and I think there's still place for this, that every franchise for their franchise recruitment should have a mini movie. I'm not sure we ever found.
10 years old, this.
Yeah, I know. We mentioned loads of brands, and no one ever quite went as far as doing it. But if this big purchasing decision someone's going to make, the other side of it, it's not a individual decision. It is going to typically be a decision of someone and their partner.
Yeah,
it's going to be a 2-person decision because it's such a big one. So if you've got, let's say, for example, my wife's going through and buying a franchise, and she's had all the communications with head office and she's really keen. And I'm like, well, I haven't been through that experience. So I just think if you had like an hour-long video on YouTube that the partner could sit down and watch as well, that meets all the team, talks to the marketing team, talks to the ops team, sees franchisees, has the bank on there talking about funding to build that trust as well. I think that to me, there is a lack of that type of content in franchising.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but I was talking to someone towards the end of last year where they said, when you come to the meeting, bring the person who's like the most negative towards this idea. Yeah. So they will ask all the questions that you don't want to ask and you're scared of asking. So that then it all comes out, and then you can make like the right decision, the proper decision.
Yeah. But you can, I totally agree, but you could also create content to overcome that same thing, which I think would be really valuable. Yeah.
How do you feel about, like, I always sort of talk to people, and this has always been a thing where franchising is quite slow to bring in new ideas and new technology. So when I started working with you in 2015, it seemed like nobody was doing video, and it took a little while for people to start doing it, and now everyone seems to be doing it. So, and AI, I think people are slowly sort of bringing that in. Is franchising still like that?
I don't know, really. I know people always say that, but I think with some new technology, it's inevitable that through a franchise network, it may be a bit slower because it's so much harder to implement something across multi-locations than it is for a standalone business. For me, it'd be much easier to implement something at Coconut within our team business. For a franchisor, they've got to implement it in their own team business and potentially another 50 locations.
And then by the time they do that, it could be outdated.
Yeah, so it's a much bigger decision and much harder to do, I think, from a technology point of view. So I don't know, really, but I think AI is obviously going to change everything. I think every brand's kind of looking at it and implementing elements and seeing where it can work, and that's the key, isn't it? I think as of now, you just need to be really curious with it and test it and try it for different things and understand where it could work and where it's going, really.
And in terms of like the wider marketing that franchises are doing, what kind of things should they be doing, in your opinion?
I think being curious with how their market could change with AI, because I think the reality is that, again, the kind of the whole, we can overestimate what happens in a year and underestimate what happens in 10 years is so true at the moment. And I think probably in the next year, how your customers find you and how you'll market your business and where you're spending your marketing budgets is not going to change too much. There might be some changes. How your customers find your business in 10 years will be completely different. In 10 years' time, I very much doubt we'll be typing into Google to find our local plumber, for example. Now, how that plays out and how you do find a local plumber in 10 years' time, we don't exactly know. So it's so important to be thinking about this now. Like, who are my customers? What are they likely to be doing over the next few years? With AI coming in and AI search and LLMs, how could that work? What kind of things are people going to be asking? How are they going to find out about me? Because that is all going to change. And we're going to do a few episodes in this podcast series around kind of the future of search and how people find businesses, because I think for me, that's the big thing in marketing this year, like especially for a franchise network. Are you technically set up? There's a few different elements to being found on ChatGPT and different things. And I'm sure every franchisor has had questions from franchisees on this. Franchisees going on to ChatGPT and saying, like, who's the best cleaner in Andover? And seeing if they appear. And then if they don't, asking the franchisor, why don't we appear? And I think starting to do work around that stuff now, it's scary, but it's a massive opportunity.
How would you actually go about doing that?
Well, there's a few different elements to it. I mean, the first thing, you have to make sure you're technically set up in a way that the LLMs can find your information.
So through Google already?
Not necessarily through Google, but you just need to make sure your website's set up and you've got the right kind of schema markup on the site to make sure there's a few different elements to it to make sure that you're technically in a place where information can be picked up. And then there's ongoing work of creating the kind of content that LLMs are answering people back on, if that makes sense. And then a big part of it is reputation. So online reputation, I think, is going to be the key driver in how an LLM will present back a result. So if we are saying, like, who is the best house cleaner in Andover, for example, it's so important that they give back the best possible answer. Because if I think, right, I'm not going to use Google to find anything anymore, I'm just going to use ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. And I use ChatGPT to ask a few questions, and every result they give back to me is awful. Imagine, you know, I want a cleaner, I use that cleaner, terrible, and then I find out that they're not respected, they were bad. I think, well, I'm not sure. Then I ask it, what's the best Italian restaurant? And I go to the Italian restaurant and it's rubbish, and you're gonna lose trust in the results being good. So from a local business point of view in franchising, how do LLMs ensure that the results they give back are the best possible result to the consumer? Because that's what they have to do. Yeah. And the only way they're going to do that is through reviews and user-generated content. So there is no doubt that they will look at Google business reviews. Which
is what Google's been doing for like 20-something years.
Yeah, and because Google's model's the same. If Google gave you bad results back all the time, you'd stop using Google. So how do they do that? They do that through reviews. So they're going to look at reviews across all platforms. If you go into, let's say, ChatGPT now and you say, can you provide me the highest rated reviewed cleaner in Andover, it will pull in reviews from everywhere. And it will sentiment track the reviews as well. It will look for kind of different parts of it. And so for me, in this year, for every franchise brand, making sure that you have a reputation management system in place somehow. So you are, one, driving reviews, but two, managing the reputation of reviews. If there are bad reviews, how do you deal with them? How do you improve those reviews? Is key, because I think that's going to be a big driver in the AI search.
Yeah, quite. That's really interesting, that.
There's some really cool stuff on it. We've been talking to lots of people on it. It's something we're going to look at a lot more this year, hopefully do some episodes on it, going into a bit more detail of what franchise brands could be doing today, because there are actionable steps they can do today. The other thing is as well, which is going to happen maybe this year, but over the next few years definitely, is we're going to start seeing paid advertising in the LLMs.
Yeah, it's kind of like inevitable, because that's kind of the way you've got to go.
Yeah. So Sam Altman has already started talking about it for ChatGPT, and they will launch it into the free version of ChatGPT. And what he's saying is that the ads will not be part of the result, and the ads will no way influence the result that someone gets back. But it could be, if you say, who's the best cleaner in Andover, cleaning company in Andover, ChatGPT gives you a response, and then below it says, and here are some other people you could look at. I think it would be like that. So who knows how that will play out? That could be, as with other platforms in the past, when they launch ads for the first time, it tends to be inexpensive and for some businesses a really good way to drive traffic. So that would be interesting. And then Google have got the biggest dilemma of how they integrate their biggest revenue driver, Google Ads, into their AI searches, which they're introducing. Like, how does that work? Because they can't they're in danger of kind of suffocating their own business model.
The way ads appear on Google generally, I think it's really seamless now. But like, I think when it first started, it was like, I'll avoid the ad and I'll go down to the actual result.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But I do think that they seem to finally have like a challenger rather than just have everything to themselves.
And it's interesting. I think, like I say, that overestimating in 1 year, underestimating in 10 years. As of today, the amount of traffic that, let's say, ChatGPT are taking away from Google on product and service related searches is tiny. I think you're probably talking like it was less than 1% at some point last year.
I seem to find, I don't know if you find this, but if you search something on ChatGPT, it's like a bit historically inaccurate. Like it's not quite up to date. Whereas like Google,
Do you use the free version?
No, the paid version.
Yeah,
like if I ask it about like football, it'll be like talk about Pochettino as Chelsea manager.
Right. Okay. It probably doesn't know about Chelsea.
Irrelevant now.
Possibly. It's going to be interesting how that plays out. As I say, in 10 years' time, we won't be typing into something what we want, and we'll be talking to things, and who knows what we'll be talking to. But that's the way it's going. But I just think that brands really, it's kind of like I would try and see it as an opportunity, because going back at the start of the internet time, when search engines first come out, businesses who were ahead of that curve massively benefited by getting to the top of searches and different platforms and things. And there feels like there's an opportunity for that now. Franchisors, we'll see how this plays out, potentially have the best opportunity, because as a multi-location business with a big website with content and listings all around the web, LLMs in theory will have more trust around that kind of business than another local business potentially. So I think there's a massive opportunity for franchisors to get ahead with the AI search.
Is there anything else that you sort of think is upcoming or ongoing that people should know about?
Well, there's so much in there with AI, and we'll try and cover some of it within different episodes, I suppose, of the podcast. But there's so many different technologies and that are coming, aren't they? I mean, as I say, I'm as excited as I am about some of that stuff. I really hope that what it also does, like technology advances all this thing, but it also, the importance of the human aspect of marketing and sales and business becomes, stays at least as important as it is today, or even becomes more important.
Yeah, I think it'll become even more important, because like a lot of content that's going to be created will be like just AI slop, so people will search out real things.
Yeah.
And I talked to Steph about this in an upcoming episode, but like they'll go to like more analog ways of doing stuff.
Yeah,
and I think that's just to get away from like the slop stuff.
I think they will. I think there will be. Yeah.
So there's ways where AI is going to save time, save money, make things like easier, but then content-wise, I can see there's going to be a lot of just rubbish created, like a tidal wave of it.
Yeah, it's. I suppose what we don't know is that when it gets as good as a human at creating, that's the problem. Like at that point, does content become less valuable in general, or is there a way that you can watermark human created content and that's more valuable? I was actually talking to a guy who's in the office near us, and he's currently working as a developer on a project which are creating watermarks for actual human created content, which can be used. So wherever you are, you can see if it's actually AI or not. They're actually creating it for OnlyFans, but the idea is that it could be then used. He didn't tell me that part until later in the conversation. But the idea is that the same thing could work. So you create a piece of content, and there is something within that which is then used. So if you're going through LinkedIn, it would allow a platform like LinkedIn to maybe have a banner underneath, because it could pick up from that content that it's actually generated and just say not AI, or
would it push the stuff that's not AI?
Yeah, exactly. Which hopefully, because that's what users are going to want, aren't they? Yeah. Like if I'm going through LinkedIn, I'd much rather LinkedIn had a way of filtering AI and non-AI, and I could. But that's as of today. And fast forward 5-10 years, do we just get to the point where we're like, no, I really don't mind. Like, as long as it's content I find valuable.
Exactly. As long as you don't want just sort of like random stuff that doesn't make sense or doesn't mean anything. But it's going to be interesting.
But yeah, we'll cover lots of different things, won't we? There's loads of different trends. But for me, in kind of core marketing, from a digital point of view, it's how could my market look in a few years' time? How do my customers find my business today? Knowing how things are moving, how could they find my business in 3 years' time? Will it change? And what do I need to be doing to get ready for that?
Nice. Cool. You'll be back later in this series.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that and hopefully have some guests on to chat around it.
Oh, yeah, we've got guests. Cool. Here's what's coming up in the next episode of the Franchise Marketing Show. Thanks for watching this one. Goodbye.
I really don't like a paper manual concept anymore. There's a couple of reasons. IP is everything in a business now. You know, that's what you're writing down. It's your business DNA. You're recording it on paper. For everything that's written down, it's a joyous moment when you say, why do we do this? And people go, I don't know. I think it's always been this way, and I think there's a better way in the company's house slot. Until there is an option to tick, I'm a franchise, we haven't quite made it in franchising, despite how many people we employ.
Yeah,
and
right. So what would you put at the moment then? Be like a management consultancy or something?
Yeah.
Weird.
Probably a training company.
Yeah.